Good morning, Karie Lee here from Sacred Cedars Wilderness School, and I'm here to tell you some backstory on Alone Season 9, Episode 7. So they open up the scene with me. I had berry butt. And nobody asked me, how did you get berry butt? Well, they show later that I'm making some fruit leather, and to tell you the truth, I collected 10 quarts of berries. So I made 5 batches of fruit leather throughout the whole time I was out there. But I always had to wait for a really nice, warm, sunny day in order to make the fruit leather. So it wasn't always an option. I kind of had to just wait for the right day. It was a commitment because it was a beautiful day and I could be out doing a lot of other things, but I needed to take that time, get those berries cooked down to nothing to where it's just super, super dry and sticking to the pan. And then in the earlier days, I would lay it out on the tarp on the roof of my shelter because it's black and the black will absorb the heat and it would dry a lot faster. Over time, once I started putting debris on top of my shelter, I couldn't do that anymore. So I was putting it on the top of the pelican box for the camera gear. Shh, I don't know if I was supposed to do that, but I did. It was the only black thing I had. And the beauty of it is I could lift the lid and angle it towards the sun as the sun moved across the sky. So I had full control of getting the maximum amount of dry heat that I could from the sun. Because once the sun goes down, I'm done drying. So how did I get berry butt? Well, I had the fruit leather on one half of the pelican box, and then later in the day I was sitting on the other edge doing something else, and when I stood up I had accidentally sat on some of my fruit leather. I guess you could say I flattened it out a little bit, but that's all good. It worked out great. So later on the episode you can see the pelican box in the background where it's angled up towards the sun, and you can see the fruit leather drying in the sun. So that's how I did it. I made fruit leather for obvious reasons, is because I wanted to preserve the fruit for later in the wintertime when I would need that substance and there's less food out there to get. So that was my way of preserving berries, and that's exactly what I would do at home. I'd be making jam or I'd be making fruit leather. In this case, I didn't have jars to make jam, so I just made it thicker, thicker, thicker and made the fruit leather. So that was what I was counting on for my calories when times got really tough out there in the winter. I also really enjoyed seeing Tom making his Ojibwe snare, and I had made one as well. Mine was a little more modified in a different way. I made it so that it would stick out of a tree. It almost worked. It worked to the point where a gray jay, is what we call them in my area, a gray jay came and he sniffed out the bait and he actually took the bait, but I didn't get him. So I modified it again and tried it again, and I set up 3 different traps thinking, oh, well, they're kind of curious in this. And they are so smart, they did not take it at all. My bait would dry, and actually there was one time during a med check that I had one set up over in the hill, and during the med check, with all those witnesses and the main camera guy there and filming, you know, they have to film the medical checks, and this gray jay came right up to my snare and we're all like, ah! And they were all excited because they might get to witness me catching a gray jay. And he came right up to like a foot away from it, and then he like sniffed it and flew away. It's like they were just too smart. They were on me. So I did not get a gray jay in my Ojibwe snare, but I did try. The dock. So Adam found a dock down by the beach, and my site was very close to his, and I also found a dock at my site. And Adam is totally right. It's not going to float. Those logs were so waterlogged that they're not going to float. And I thought about, what can I do with these boards? And what can I do with these nails? And at that point in time, I really couldn't think of what I could use them for. However, now I wish I'd kind of made a floor on my shelter because it was a little muddy because of the clay. So yes, I could do some things with that. And I love the bench. Oh my God, like why didn't I think of that? But when I was looking at it, it was like, how much work would it be? Those boards are kind of heavy, and my site was way up a hill. And the thought of carrying those boards way up the hill for a purpose that I wasn't really clear on was not worth the calorie count for me. I was really, really working on conserving my calories. So I knew exactly where that dock was, and it was pretty close to where I was fishing. So I knew if something came up where I was like, oh my God, I wish I had a board and nails, I knew exactly where to go and get them. So I just let it be for now. Maybe that was my bad, but just had to be, I just wanted to be transparent with that. So the day of my mom's birthday, I waited and waited. I counted down the days and I practiced the song to sing for my mother for her birthday. And it was a song, maybe I'll just share it really briefly. It's like, on the day my mom was born, the day my mom was born, the angels sang and they blew on their horns, and they danced, and they smiled and raised up their hands on the day my mom was born. I sang it with a little more robust when I was out there, but it just brought up all these tears and emotions, and I went into the monologue of just sharing my thoughts with my mom and my love for her and feeling her love back for me. And it was just such a sweet moment, and I was so happy that they decided to show that, just to honor the moms that support us doing these wild and crazy things that we do. So that was just so beautiful. And the birthday cake, that was a really good insight. So here's the birthday cake. And what that is, before I could dig in the clay, I had to take off the topsoil. And that's what the ancestors told me to do, was to lift up my skin, dig in the clay, separate it out, make your walls, put your roof on, and then put her skin on top. So what that was saying is to dig up the topsoil, which was only about 3 inches deep, to get to the clay. And so I did that, and I made them in about 1 foot to 1.5 foot size bricks. And each of those bricks I set aside. There were over 40 bricks that I had set aside on the ground there, so that when I had my roof all ready and had the crossbars and the ribs and all that support system in, put my tarp down and then put all those bricks on top, which gives me a clay earth ship in a lichen living roof. So, and that gives you a lot of insulation, having that much insulation. You saw how thick it was. And then the lichens just look like, I think, well, I don't know, they're called trumpeter lichen or something. They were just the perfect birthday candles. So, and the wish I made for my mom was just wishing her good health and happiness and just thinking of her at home. So that's the story behind the birthday cake. So you could say that the roof of my shelter was made with birthday cake. Next topic, the squirrel. So I went out to check my squirrel traps, and when you check your squirrel traps, you always have your bow, because every time you're out there, a squirrel is going to come out and yell at you. So you got to take your shot. And it happened every day. So I did find a squirrel, as you saw, and I was like, so happy I have dinner for my mom's birthday. But I also went and I shot a second squirrel. And so I was super excited, because now I have 2 squirrels for mom's birthday, and I almost got a 3rd squirrel. And I was so amazed that when I came back to my shelter, I held them both up and I said, look, Mom, I got 2 squirrels for your birthday dinner, 1 for you and 1 for me. Sorry, Dad, I tried to get a 3rd squirrel, but it didn't make it happen. So they didn't quite show that 2nd squirrel, which I wasn't sure why, because it was right there. 5 more seconds of airtime, I don't know. But so I just wanted to share that I actually had 2 squirrels, 1 for my mom and 1 for me, on her birthday dinner. And it was like the best birthday dinner ever. So I didn't eat them all in one day. I saved it. I had it for the next day. But so that was my mom's birthday. And at this point, this is all I really have to share with you for this episode. And I'm looking forward to episode 8. So we'll see you really soon.